this program that we started 4 weeks ago. And today with me, there is also Nabil. Nabil, if you want to introduce yourself, and then I will introduce myself.
Sure. Thanks, Filippo. So, hi, everyone. My name is Nabil. I'm working as a customer engineer in Apigee, and I'm based out of Stockholm, and I'm covering the Nordics and Benelux regions.
And I'm Filippo, and same role of Nabil, but I'm based in Milan, and I'm mainly focusing on the Italian customers. And I mean, as I said, the agenda for today will be mainly discuss about the use case. As I mentioned, the Apigee Quickstart program was something that started, let's say, in 4 weeks ago, and we wanted to provide you, let's say, a quick start approach for starting to adopt Apigee, especially in a pay-as-you-go fashion. The first session was about the product, the foundation. Then the following section we discuss more in deep the security, how to expose the proxy. Last session was about the governance, the CI/CD, and we decided to keep at the last of this program a session that will showcase, discuss about use cases and success story. Without further ado, let's dig in. Okay, I mean, in the past we used to say that software is eating the world, but now recently what we are seeing is that API are eating the world because they are so pervasive in everyday and in the majority of the services, the product that we are using, and this is due to the fact also that the organization are adapting to the new, let's say, demand from their customer base, and let's say that what we are seeing is that an organization it's also changing their sometimes even their core proposition thanks to the API. There was in the past a famous article from the Hardware Business Review that basically was asking a provocative question that was related to the enterprise. What business are you really in? Meaning for this question was the fact that we assisted at the fact that organization, thanks to the thanks to the API, were opening up their, let's say, product services to a much more wider audience. And thanks to the API, they were able to reach customer that was not possible to reach before. And basically, what we are seeing today is that this basic question, that what business are you really in, it's getting more and more difficult to answer, because we see enterprises that transform themselves from, let's say, finance into fintech, or maybe organization that produce technical hardware components. They transformed themselves into produce a digital product. So, and this is something that it's the power of the API. So basically, the API will give you the let's say, this window to this new digital economy, and the organization that are able to play a vital role with this, let's say, API, that will be able to be much more competitive compared to their peer in their particular specific sector. And one example of this, let's say, connected enterprise that changed, reshaped their core business is, for example, a very popular, let's say, a company that used to sell books, hotel rooms, but now, thanks to the API, they are able to, let's say, increase their offering, not only the hotel, but also suggest the flight, provide insurance product together with the trips, provide additional experience that can be a restaurant, but can be also book other particular activities and so on. And this is possible because the, let's say, the actor involved in this, let's say, cluster of affinity in terms of the trips are working together, and thanks to the API are able to offer their particular services into a bundle of offering. In this way, then it's possible to create bundle of product that put together different product and service offered by different actors. That can be an insurance company, but can be a air company, or can be the hotel booking system. So all of these, let's say, experience is possible thanks to the fact that it's more easy now to let's say, link together and create different propositions that are more tailored to the particular customer base. I mean, if you look in some of the, let's say, customer that maybe the more, let's say, the more innovative, they are looking at the API not just as a technical component, but they're looking at a real business solution. For example, we have banks that are, let's say, offering business product like the capability to have a loan for a green product like the solar panel. And this, let's say, you will see that there is this, let's say, networking between the bank, between the energy utilities company, the panel manufacturing. So this is possible because they are leveraging the API as a way to change or to offer new business product. And some of this business product can also generate direct revenue. For example, they can attach a particular, let's say, tariff plan, and then they can be used by an organization to generate additional revenue on the use of this product. Not all the product, not all the API that are packages product can generate, let's say, direct revenue. The majority of our customers are using the API to generate indirect revenue, but we have also customers that are going to attach also a particular, let's say, tariff plan in order to monetize the use and the call of the particular API. If we want to, let's say, create an analogy, I think that this one, it's really fit on what we are doing with the Apigee. That basically we take an asset, the backend asset, and we wrap this backend asset inside an API product. That is not just a technicality, but it brings also the aspect of the consumer, let's say, context. It brings also it takes in consideration how the different consumer, that in our case are the different developers from an organization or even outside the organization, how these developers are going to use this API product. So the same backend, the same IT backend, can be wrapped in different way that generate different product in order to address maybe different type of developer. And these developers are building new experience, new application, like for example, the one in this analogy is the Millennium Falcon on the box that is being then used by the end customer that is going to use these services and product. So this is the focus that we want to try to highlight here, is the fact that considering the API as a real digital product can benefit an organization in order to think outside the box and think to generate a new type of business. And we will show some of these, let's say, business products that are being generated by the API. And as it is a journey that starts from a particular aspect, from a particular steps, and goes through different steps that more or less are the same that every customer is adopting. The journey of an API will start from the concept, from the design, that and our approach is really to consider the outside-in approach. So starting from what will be useful for a consumer, and I highlight the fact that the consumer here is the developer. What type of services the developer will have benefit in consuming, and then once we have defined this type of concept design, we start to develop and map this to what is available inside the organization, inside the enterprise. We pass through the development phase, then we'll add the security aspect. Sometimes also we will have to deal with integrate with the particular backend system. Not all the IT asset that an organization wants to expose an API are ready to be exposed as an API. Maybe are some asset hosted in a mainframe, other are hosted in another legacy system or off-the-shelf system. Maybe the asset needs to be assembled together, needs to create a more business let's say business grain signature in order to expose as an API product. And in this case, we will need to deal also with the integration aspect. And then once we have created this bundle, we can publish as a product inside the developer portal that an organization is going to use to in order to make available this product. Then there will be the deployment aspect, the monitoring, and as I mentioned before, some of these products, an organization may decide to apply also a monetization aspect. Some of these products, an organization may decide to add a tariff plan, a rate plan, in order that they will also be able to generate direct revenue by the use of this product. Up to now, I think that this is something more or less something that is already familiar with what you have seen so far, and what is your current experience in terms of a journey of the API. More or less, this is the path that we see in our customer. And one of the key aspects to showcase this type of product is to publish with a right a well, let's say, designed developer portal. And the developer portal, it's, let's say, the entry point that your customer is going to use in order to see what is available from your enterprise. The developer portal, we see the developer portal as a really competitor differentiator because I mean, it's like a store. If the store is really curated, it's really easy to find the product, it's really easy to register and consume, then it's more successfully will be generated by the fact that more and more developer and customer are going to use that developer portal, are going to use and register and subscribe for the consumption of the API that are exposed on the developer portal. We've seen developer portal, we've seen several developer portal from simple configuration to more sophisticated configuration. The developer portal basically not only provide you a way to discover the API, but also a kind of sandbox where you can, the developer can play before maybe subscribe to that particular API and to pay for the use of that particular API. So these are all aspects that together are important in order to have a successfully API program and API adoption, because you can have the best API product that you have implemented, that you have deployed, but if it's are not very, let's say, visible from the outside, are not easy to discover, easy to use, it gets complicated to do the onboarding, then those products are not going to be really successfully. So the fact to have a developer portal, it's also important as the way as the same importance as the fact that you are creating, exposing some API with all the characteristics like security, monitoring, and so on. So don't leave the developer portal and the onboarding of your customer at the end, because it's something that can really play the difference between you and your competitor. So I stressed the fact also at the beginning that the API are not IT, but it's about business. And this is so true in many customers that are changing their core business. And just one for all, if you remember TomTom, they started to sell the navigator, the physical navigator that you could install on the car, or you could, let's say, bring with you, but was mainly a physical product. TomTom changed their business model, and now what they're doing are selling the digital product. And the digital product are just exactly the same functionality that you would have in the navigator, but are just exposed via API. So you can implement your own product services by embedding the API that TomTom has developed. And the revenue of TomTom in this case are, let's say, are generated directly by the use of this API. And if you see, I mean, now it's more and more the revenue generated that from this stream are bigger than the traditional revenue generated by the stream with the hardware navigator. So this is something that highlight the fact that the API can really change the business of an organization. If they are very well designed, very well thought, and they find the right strategy, the business market to sell it, then the API can be really, let's say, a killer application for an organization that can bring new revenue for an organization. This, of course, is just one example of an organization that changed their business model thanks to the adoption of the API. And as I said at the beginning, the API here, and I hope that you have seen in the previous session, the fact that Apigee highlight the fact that an IT asset can be wrapped in different products that are targeting different consumer base. And this is a way to, let's say, disintermediate the IT asset by the way that the asset is consumed by their consumer. It's an advantage because then you are, let's say, the marketing, the business people are more free in thinking about what type of product, digital product they could sell, they could launch on their developer portal. This is another customer. It's, let's say, founded by Allstate. Allstate. It's an insurance very big in US, and since they started with, let's say, embedded or provide the black box to install in the car in order to be able to collect information, they also are changing their business model because Arity now it's a kind of company that it's able to collect a lot of data on how the driver are using the car. With millions of sensor devices installed on the car, they are able to collect the style of driver. They are able to, let's say, be able to provide lots of information, useful information that can be used both for create a new product, like for example, be able to provide custom or tailor-made premium for the particular customer that subscribe to these services. So instead to have let's say generic premium for insurance, the car for the insurance product, here they are able to customize this the product because they are able to identify and score how good or bad that driver is drive the car, and also they're able to resell this data to other partner, external organization, third-party, third business partners that are interested in get this information in order to provide additional value and services on top of the one that Arity is going to already provide. And this again, we see that the product, it became also a kind of a data product because maybe there will be some external retail organizations that are interesting to see what are the roads that are more popular on a particular, let's say, particular day or a particular time of the day, because maybe they are looking to identify some footfall analysis use cases because they want to open a new store. So in order to open a new store, they would like to have this type of information. So here, the other thing that I want to highlight is the fact that sometimes an organization that define the product, once the product is, the digital product in this case, is made available into the developer portal, then the product itself can generate additional information that will help an organization to define how to evolve the product. Maybe initially the organization didn't thought about a particular use case, but thanks to the fact that they made available this API product into their developer portal, into their marketplace, they were able to see how the customer, so the external partner, are going to use this product in order to think that maybe we can evolve that product in that particular direction. So, as in this case, not only to provide insurance premium, but also provide also information to business partners that are interested to see what are the most dense road in a particular town, in a particular time of the year, and so on. So selling the data set that contains useful information for other organizations that you didn't thought at the beginning. This is also another interesting use case. For example, we see here that APM terminals that manage the containers, especially in Europe, in North Europe, in Netherlands, they have identified the fact that if they were able to attach some money on the fact that they can provide information about the state of the container. Where is it? If it's in the custom, if it's on the ship, if it's on the dock, to provide visibility to the customer that are moving the container, they will generate, let's say, revenue on this type of new information. So they have created the API product that provide visibility into the life cycle of the container. And for each type of operation, they have, let's say, attach a particular payment. In this case, it's called credit, that based on the operation, the customer gets charged by 1 credit, 2 credits, and so on, in order to provide visibility of the life cycle of the container. So from one aspect, they will provide tracking visibility to their customer. So their customers are more than happy to pay if they will have the visibility on their particular container that is being shipped. And on the other side, the APM terminal are also able to generate additional revenue. So not only satisfy more the customer, but also generate additional revenue by providing this type of feature. So again, does not need to be a particular, let's say, sophisticated use cases, but even simple visibility can turn into generating new revenue and satisfy at the same time the customer. Another trend that we are seeing is the fact that more and more, let's say, especially electrics manufacturing, but not only electric manufacturing in general, are providing via API additional services to the product, to the physical product that they are selling. So they are selling both the both the physical product, but also its digital twins, where they can apply and they can leverage the API in order to collect the information of the physical product in order to provide visibility, to provide, let's say, for example, add-on services like predictive maintenance and so on. Imagine, for example, Schneider Electric, they provide, let's say, product for energy management for the building, but not only for the building, but also for plant and so on. And all of their customer needs to have their integration of this physical product inside the IT facility of the customer. For example, the energy management system, or for example, the other type of system that we can find in a big manufacturing. So this integration is performed thanks to the API, and the API are seen as an additional add-on value that a customer is willing to pay in order to get these features that otherwise will not be able to easily integrate this asset inside their electronic system, inside their business support system, inside their operational support system. And for example, as I mentioned, especially if you talk about smart infrastructure, smart city, smart building, all these physical and digital products are interconnected. And the way that is possible to achieve this connection, let's say this link, it's thanks to the digital product, thanks to the digital twin, that the majority of the case it's implemented with the API. And if we extend more this concept, what we've seen is that we will see more and more the creation of this co-located industrial cluster, where, for example, there will be, in the past, there used to be the industrial manufacturing cluster, where all the actors for a specific on a specific industry, for example, automotive, the supply part of the automotive, and the supplier of the supplier, they were physically co-located in a particular region. For example, here in Italy, there are particular geographical regions that are focusing on the automotive industry. With the API, what we are seeing is that there will be more and more these co-located of industrial cluster, but at the API level. For example, the fact that several actors like the utility, energy companies, the public administrator, the university, or the industry that are trying to reduce their, let's say, the carbon and reduce the generation of the fuel fossil, they are working together in order to leverage the benefit of the many into this particular co-located industrial cluster. And what we see is that, again, the API here are playing an important role, because all of these, let's say, actors participated in this network has their own digital twins, and the digital twins, both for the industrial IoT or the consumer IoT, are able to provide, let's say, information that are really added value for a particular, let's say, sector in terms of a particular, let's say, a particular vertical. For example, we see a company that co-located together, let's say, virtually, thanks to the API, in order to create a smart city, smart builder, have the smart radiator talking with the smart thermostat, maybe implemented by or provided by another company, the solar system, and all of these, let's say, components that work together can provide the benefit for the community. Imagine, for example, a green digital ecosystem that allows to leverage more and more assets like the e-bikes or having a particular bike rental schema or use bus that does not consume fuel but just use energy, solar energy or recycle energy. So all of these co-located cluster can provide their services thanks to the fact that the API are being used as the glue to create new additional services based from the simple services that each one of these actors provide by themselves. The fact that they are using the API and they work together is in an extended kind of enterprise, this will have a lot of benefit to the community, to the particular customer, but also to the let's say organization itself. So this is something that we are seeing a lot in the trend is increasing, and the fact that is increasing is thanks to the fact that these API now are really able to provide the, let's say, the connectivities that give the possibility to create new and advanced value services on top of the services that a single organization can provide.
Yeah, now we'll discuss some of the use cases that we see and with in the market. So the use cases could be quite a lot. So it depends on the industry that you're working in. So, for example, if you're working in the telecom industry, the use cases could be slightly different. For travel industry, there are different use cases. But then there's also technical use cases as well. So, for example, if you have microservices and you want to expose them through API management, then you also have those kind of use cases, which we have listed all on these slides. And we'll go into some of the use cases in this section. Yeah, the first use case that I wanted to discuss is generative AI together with Apigee. Generative AI, you all have probably seen ChatGPT or Bard from Google. So these generative AI or large language models could be used to generate text, write code, generate pictures, a lot of stuff. And API management could add a lot of value if you're having a generative AI use case. So in this over here, we'll discuss more details about that as well. So here on the right side, you see you would have these large language models that are usually accessible through APIs if you want to incorporate these large language models into your applications. So the ones I've written over here, the ones from Google on the top right, as you can see, Palm 2 is one of our text model. So the input is text and then it predicts what could be the next output, for example. If you see other companies, then there's GPT, they have their models as well. Then, OpenAI with their models. Hugging Face has their own models. So there could be all of these models and could be multiple models as well that a company might be using. And then a lot of people would be fine tuning their data using these large language models. And then having sort of these fine tuned or custom prompts that reflect their own business, and then use that and wrap that functionality into an API and then provide it to either internal developers or the partners, or they could be used in the applications as well. So all of these large language model APIs, either raw APIs or the custom APIs that people will create, could be exposed through Apigee. So Apigee in this case would take care of the security, provide a unified security. Filippo was talking about the developer portal. So as a developer or a consumer, I should be able to come to the developer portal, which could be called a marketplace as well, where people could come, see what APIs other people have been creating within the organization, and then try it out. If someone likes it, they can get a API key in a self-service way, and they can start using it right away. And then some models are expensive and some are cheap. So you want to make sure as an organization that uh, you want to have some sort of governance, that not one single person is calling a very expensive model 100,000 times in a day. So you want to have some sort of tiered audience in which you can define a quota within Apigee, that certain group of people within my organization would be able to access an expensive model. A partner maybe needs to access an expensive model, but maybe a certain bronze partner should only be able to access the low cost models, right? So that is something that you can develop over here within Apigee. Who should access what? So authorization could be added in Apigee as well. You could add rate limiting. You can also explore some caching use cases if you have some data that is being called once, and if you see those queries are coming again and again, you probably could cache that and send it back to the consumers. Analytics could will also be added over here. So Apigee would add a lot of value in if it's put in front of these large language models. Some of the problems that could be solved if you're exploring generative AI is, number one, as a producer of this generative AI API, how easy it is for me to publish this API. So Filippo talked about API products. So as an AI person, I might not be that much aware about how to publish this onto a marketplace. So Apigee provides me with an infrastructure where I could, as an AI scientist, probably work on a generative AI API, create something, but through Apigee, very easily publish it as an API product and then publish it onto the developer portal as well. From the consumer side, I would be able to access these APIs easily and then use it in a self-service way, get an API key, and get going pretty much right away. Also, monetization is also an important aspect over here. So some APIs that, if as an organization I've created an API using the large language models, maybe I need to charge my end customers for using it as well. So I can add monetization or enable monetization from Apigee to monetize those APIs. So cost control we have talked about. There's a problem, or could be a problem, that there's the cost could go out of your hands, because each API call would cost your organization some money, because these models are not based on the API calls. But let's say if you are summarizing 1,000 word essay, then that would add some cost. So you can have some cost control mechanisms, that someone should only be able to use 50,000 characters in their APIs. Um, so you could use Apigee to do the cost control, and also you can charge back your internal developers as well, or internal departments, for usage of these generative AI APIs. So Apigee comes with analytics to basically see that how people are using the APIs. So it shouldn't act as a black box. And if you open generative AI APIs, then it should be easy for everyone to see what kind of uh, developers are using it, how they are using it, what is the experience they're getting. Maybe from analytics, you would get to know that there's a lot of API calls on one. So maybe you need to monetize that because that's a very popular API. Security is also a very key concept over here. So as an organization, you might be worried that when you open this generative AI initiative to the larger audience within an organization, there could be a lot of people who might be sending some sensitive information. So sometimes when I'm using uh, generative AI and I paste my code and say that, what's the problem with this code? There might be that I've not removed the API key from this code that I entered over here. Or when I ask about, like, give me a good response for this email. Maybe I haven't removed some email addresses from that text. So Apigee could act as sort of like a layer in front, which would detect any sensitive data, log it, and also give a view to the security people within an organization that how my company or developers, they are using these large language models, and if they're using or sending any sensitive data. Somewhat related to this is the CCAI, which is a product within Google to create the chatbots to give a better customer experience to the customer. So an example could be that when I call a bank to say that please block my credit card, I've lost it. So this could be done by a bot as well. So I might call, and a bank would have probably, if they have deployed a CCAI solution, then a real person voice, but it would be a bot, would talk to me, and I could talk to him and I can say that my card is blocked, and then he could ask like, can I, what's your like personal number or social security number? I would tell, it would check back from the database, and it would say that you have two cards, which one do you want to block? I would say one, and then it would be blocked. So one part is to understand the language and conversation, but a very important part is the fulfillment, how to talk to these backend databases, data, and give a very good, nice personal experience to these callers. So let's see how Apigee would help in the fulfillment part. So over here you can see on the left, it's a customer. They are talking to through some external services, maybe a phone, maybe WhatsApp, maybe on Facebook chat. And then Apigee would talk to these backend systems. So I talked about, it would ask my personal number, and maybe from the CRM it will get my data. So Apigee would uh, implement these APIs uh, so that CCI could talk to these backends as well. So Apigee comes with the native built-in policies for CCAI that you can use to parse the input request and send a request back to the end systems. And maybe you want to use a connector to BigQuery to get some data and see that if this customer is a high value customer. So maybe you have implemented a model in BigQuery to tell that how what is this, like a high value customer? Is it my special customer that I need to pay special attention to? So get that data, then check maybe from the product system to see what kind of products do I have, and then do this fulfillment part. So that's how Apigee would help in this case. Similar to these last two use cases is the data platform, which is also insights as a service. So BigQuery is a platform where there's a lot of customers have put in their data and then insights about data as well, right? um, when you have to expose these insights either to the people within your organization or maybe to your partners as well. Let's say if I'm a fintech company and I have some banks who are who and those banks end customers use my service. I could have a lot of data as a fintech that could be of value to these banks, which are my customer, right?
So basically, if I have this type of data that makes sense to expose also to third party, then the Apigee here is going to play an important role because those data can be wrapped with Apigee and can be considered as a data product where we use Apigee to add, for example, the quota, for example, from the same data set, we can generate a different API product with different security aspect, different quota aspect, and in some case apply some rate plan in order to have a direct monetization. It's important to note, for example, that it's not necessary to have Google BigQuery as a backend. Here, for example, in Italy last year, we had the customer always in the telematics sector that they had a data lake based on different type of technology, and they wanted to sell this data set to external partner. They wanted to sell not with the traditional way to export data and give them the data, but they wanted to create a more, let's say, agile and seamless onboarding process for this partner. So basically, they have created the API product that maps to the data set that retrieves the data set from the data lake and reply back the data set to the customer that is requesting this data. Depends on the dimension of this data set. Some of the data set can be returned inside the payload, or if the data set is really huge, what we implemented with Apigee is the fact that we get let's say, data set is being saved into a particular cloud store, and we get a signed the URL that will send back to the client in order for the client to download this data set. And again, here is when Apigee is being used to take an IT asset, in this slide, BigQuery, and wrap it inside data product that can be consumed by external partners, because you are not going to give access to the data to the external consumer directly to the data lake, but you want to create a tiering product and provide different, let's say, capability in terms of consumption, in terms of quota management, in terms of monetization, that allows the external partner to subscribe to a particular data product, and if the data product has also the monetization attached, generate additional revenue. So, and this is, let's say, also similar to the same, let's say, approach that Nabil also discussed, to have Apigee in front of the Gen AI capabilities, because in this way, for example, in these slides, it's much more easy to consume a REST API from an external partner, embed the data set inside their services or digital product, rather than have another process to get this information. So the advantage of the organization here, it's multiple, because not only they are, let's say, monetizing some asset that otherwise could not be monetized, but also they are, let's say, enlarge the digital value chain of their product. And another advantage is that some of these products, they don't need to be known upfront. And this is something that we see often, that sometimes customers are reluctant to create a digital product and put on the developer portal, because they don't know exactly who is going to use, how they're going to use it, and so on. But with Apigee, it's possible to let's say, define this product, make it available. Initially, don't apply the monetization, and only in a subsequent later, when you realize, when you, with the analytics that are being collected, you are able to get inside and determine the fact that maybe you can apply also the monetization. So if your product is available in the marketplace, into the developer portal, then will be your, let's say, customer, the one that will find out a meaningful way to use that product. But if you wait to have know exactly how your product is going to be used, then probably you will never start, because the more successful companies that are adopting an API strategy that was successfully with B2B and B2C are those that they create the product, make it available, and collecting the analytics and understand if it's something that it's used and makes sense to evolve, or something that does not make sense to evolve, or something that also makes sense to apply the monetization. I mean, once the product, the API product is discoverable into the marketplace, then there will be third business partner that maybe you didn't thought at the beginning that they could be useful to, or they will, let's say, have the advantage to use your API product because you didn't thought about their use cases. In this way, you are provide the basic and let your business partners to generate the use cases that justify this API program.
To summarize, like we have, like personally, like I want to share like example from one of my customers. They're like a news agency, and then they create different sort of profiles for the readers, and then they put it into their backend, which in their case is BigQuery, but could be anything, as Filippo said. And then they wanted to monetize this because they wanted to share this data with their partners as well, for who wanted to advertise. So for this data that they wanted to charge, they started using Apigee and created this data, which is insights within BigQuery, as an API product, and they put it onto the developer portal that they created, and then they added monetization on top of it as well, so that if a partner accesses the data, they are also paying, and the monetization part is automatically handled through Apigee.
So the other use case that we see, it's also to accelerate the migration project. For example, customer that has, let's say, service product or on-premise or other cloud provider, and they are starting the journey to cloud. An API component like Apigee is being used to accelerate this app migration to the cloud, because they can create this abstraction, this layer intermediation between the consumer, the client, and the backend, and they can, let's say, transparently route the request from the client to the particular backend services, and maybe once they will start to migrate the asset into the cloud, they can, Apigee can, let's say, split the traffic and dismiss the call to the on-prem and just forward route the call to the cloud services. So in this way, it's being used Apigee as a way to accelerate this migration. It's not, let's say, disruptive, because it will be initially a pass-through to the existing asset, and then gradually the pass-through will split the traffic and will route the traffic from the client to the new application developed on the cloud, without be disruptive on the consumer side. And here, for example, can be used to have initially, for example, you can use Apigee as a pass-through, and then not only created mixed application or provide mixed API that are both have some backend on-prem or backend on the cloud-native application, but they can, let's say, abstract this, let's say, complexity of the backend from the consumer, that they are just invoking an API, and then it's Apigee that knows where to route the request or how to enrich the request, if it's a combination or not. And Apigee, in this way, it's able to collect, analyze the data that can provide useful information from an organization to, for example, not only have analytics in terms of IT operation, but also have insight on the business, on what is the most, let's say, API or a developer or application that generate the most traffic, and then what eventually, in case of monetization, which is the API that generate more revenue, which one should I evolve, which one should I maybe stop to let's say, evolve. Because another important concept is that the API product are just a product in terms that it's not a project with the start date and an end date like the traditional IT project. An API product, it's a product. So the product evolve, and it's important to be able to have this insight on the data. And Apigee, just by proxying the backend, it's able to collect this insight, and it's able then to, for example, in many migration projects, Apigee has been used in this way. Just initially a pass-through, collect the analytics, collect the data, and then split the traffic on the new services in order to, without create disruption to the consumer on the left of this slide that are invoking the API, and apply policy that maybe are too complicated to or not designed at the beginning in the backend system, but apply the policy on the proxies posed by Apigee, security policy, but also monetization and so on. Another use case, the one that is a company, a US company that using to sell ticket for a concert, sport event, and so on. And they initially started to sell the ticket via a website and with the phone line. And they had, let's say, was not scalable. And in order to make it scalable, they, first of all, they've created this API that allows to get to the backend system, like the ticket supply system and third-party supply system, and wrap this asset into, let's say, API product that could be easily embedded into specialized vertical channel, like a specific website for the sport, social media, like kiosk, and so on. They were able to apply and to pursue a multi-channel, let's say, strategy that were not possible to do without an API strategy. For example, having the dialogue flow, the virtual agent to answer to some channel, and this, let's say, agility was thanks to the fact that they were able to, let's say, introduce this layer that were basically allowed to evolve the new business model without requiring the IT to adapt their internal system, their ticketing supply system, and so on. And this is because, thanks to the API that basically allows to have this different speed to onboard a new business model, because the API, the same API is being used by the phone line, by the website, and by the different website. It's just the way that are being consumed that maybe are different, thanks to the fact that I can create a tiering product that can have different quota, different monetization, and so on. And also, this customer were able to scale because in order to onboard a new channel or onboard a new third-party supply, they don't need to do an ad hoc integration project, but the third party just subscribe in a self-service fashion to the API that are being published to the developer portal of this company. Another use case that to simplify the developer on new application, and for example, using AppSheet. AppSheet, I don't know if you are familiar with this product, but AppSheet is a low-code product from Google, and it targets mainly the citizen developer, so not really the professional developer that can use the more sophisticated, let's say, code to write their product, but this target the citizen developer that are more, let's say, focused on a business domain rather than the technology, but thanks to the AppSheet are able to create a lot of, let's say, application that simplify the day-to-day activities of these business users that are also citizen developer. And sometimes, in order to, it's very easy to create a web or a mobile application thanks to AppSheet, but sometimes you need to leverage a backend system. For example, you need to leverage a SaaS services or other type of services. Thanks to Apigee, you are able to simplify these connectivities in order to simplify and speed up the creation of application done by the citizen developers. And with all the characteristics of this API product that are being, let's say, implemented by the API management platform like Apigee, so security, analytics, and all the lifecycle governance. Another use case that we see with Apigee is to expose the microservices with Apigee. In this case, for example, we can have a layer of APIM, the one in the central of this slide, with the fact that the entry point to the microservices is being implemented by Anthos Service Mesh, and on top of in front of the Anthos Service Mesh, there will be the layer of Apigee with the characteristics of the analytics, the monetization, the advanced API security, and all the things that we have seen before. This is also another, let's say, pattern that we are seeing that our customers are adopting. Another, let's say, sector is all the things related to the IoT. We mentioned at the beginning the digital twin, all these manufacturing that they are adding new services, new digital services on top of their physical product. So with the IoT, it's also another, let's say, complement technology that Apigee it's work with in order to create new products, new services. And here on the left of this slide, for example, we have these devices that can generate information, events. In this case, for simplicity, it uses MQTTs to send these information events from the gateway to the cloud using the ingestion phase that using particular services like Cloud PubSub, and then, for example, insert this information inside the store that can be BigQuery, but can be also another type of store, and have Apigee on top of it in order to provide real-time information that can be consumed by third-party external, let's say, application that are able to retrieve this information with the via the API. For example, imagine that like Schneider Electric, that I want to integrate into my. Imagine that I'm a smart. I'm an owner of several buildings, and I want to integrate the Schneider Electric's component product that can be huge pump and so on into my management system, into my energy management system, in order to have a single view of all the consumption of my buildings. Then I'm able to expose this information via API, exposed by Apigee. Apigee is able to retrieve the information that it's stored into the let's say storage like BigQuery or Bigtable or whatever, and then provide this information to the energy management system of the builder owner in order to have the control of how the consumption is going, how the trend is going, and so on. So this is something that we see Apigee as a way to expose and make available information that are collected from the devices, both let's say industrial IoT, but also consumer IoT. Another use cases where Apigee is used a lot is on the let's say here in particular it's commerce tool, but in general to all the e-commerce site where, for example, let's say I can have Apigee in front of the different channel and apply, let's say, the provide all the security mechanism that we have seen before, like, for example, because each particular channel may require different security aspect. Then, let's say, Apigee it's used in the communication between the, let's say, the content delivery front end and the backend system that provide the functionality of the e-commerce. And here, for example, it's an high-level architecture where not only Apigee is being used as, let's say, API management that sit between the consumer and the commerce tool, but also we leverage a component like Apigee integration that, for example, allows to orchestrate more sophisticated integration logic with the backend. And some integration logic can also be asynchronous. So maybe I need to retrieve data in a synchronous way. I need to connect to SAP. I need to connect to different, let's say, database and technology or off-the-shelf product or external SaaS provider. So when this type of integration is needed, then we can leverage Apigee and complement it with the component of Apigee integration that it provides this type of, let me say, iPaaS type of integration logic. It is also something that is being, let's say, we see more and more often in our customer base. And then, let's say, another use cases is, of course, the to transform the manufacturing. We talked at the beginning about the industrial cluster, co-located industrial cluster. Imagine that with this digital API economy, this traditional supply chain pipeline that was linear in the traditional business, now, thanks to the concept of the API platform, this interaction is more fluid, it's more seamless, because it provides much more freedom, and it's been, let's say, it also adapt to the new, let's say, market request or change that the different entity involving into the traditional supply chain now are acting as a more, let's say, more coordinated thanks to and more integrated thanks to the API platform that provide this glue between this type of interaction that and that will allow also to assemble and generate more quickly new supply chain process rather than the traditional one. The one on the right in these slides provides you a much more agile and flexible supply chain that can adapt to the changes, to the request of the market that surround that particular industrial cluster. Move to the last part. The last part here is more, let's say, it's some insight, maybe food for thought about what we should consider when we start an API program, an API adoption in our organization, and how I can create a business case that justify the adoption of technology like Apigee. So basically, what will be the benefit, why we should adopt Apigee? So provide some guideline also for you or inspiration in order to be able to justify the business case that then will give the maybe green line to adopt the Apigee inside your organization. Basically, we have seen three major pillars. We see the customers that are mainly interested in adopting Apigee or the API in general for cost efficiency in terms of simplify their integration context. So rather than having point-to-point, just adopt an API that simplify the integration, and this will bring the immediate benefit of reduce the cost, improve the efficiency. But then this is just one aspect. We see that more mature customers are interested in using the API in order to be able to, let's say, be more agile from the business point of view, be able to respond more quickly to their marketing or business unit in order to release new services, provide new functionalities, and so on. So here the justification is mainly on speed and business agility. It's much more easy to assemble a new product if I start from an API, let's say, layer rather than something that than without having the API. And then as the last, let's say, pillar or the last step that we see in the more, let's say, advanced, mature customer are the fact that they see the API as a new way to generate new business model, new channel, to open up new business, new business opportunities, something that was not foreseen before. So, and those customers are interested in developing an API, let's say, a platform strategy driven by the API. So, also, I would be like to have your feedback on where you, in which category, in which step, phase of this, let's say, slide you follow, if it's more about speed, more about integration, or more about new business model. So this is just some insight to you to think about the adoption of an API. From where I start and what are the opportunities and where I can go further with this API. And then there is also the other aspect that organizations should consider, how I can fund this initiative. And what is currently your funding for your API? If you are doing this session, maybe you just started, or you are thinking to start, or you already started using the API. And I would be interested to know if, for example, there is no particular funding for this API project, or maybe you need to convince individual project to use API in order to have some, let's say, traction inside the organization to have a much more larger, wider adoption of this API initiative in your organization. If you have built some mechanism to, let's say, onboard different business unit, if the API initiative is, let's say, company driven, it's something that it's mandate from your organization, or if it's something that just on a particular business unit. What we have seen is that Apigee, I mean, if there are more streams that are interesting to Apigee, it's much more easy to position it and to adopt and to sell and to find the funding for Apigee, rather than having a single project that needs to have a kind of API capabilities, API layer capabilities. So also these aspects are important when you start adopting an API program. And then funding goes together with the metrics, how I measure the effectiveness of my API program. Did you thought in advance how do you want to measure the impact of your API? Are you using some leverage, some IT-centric KPI, or are you thinking of new API? And because we're talking about API, maybe you are thinking on new type of KPI, number of partner onboarders, number of developers onboarding, number of self-service applications that were generated. So all of these aspects are a useful exercise to do upfront while you are adopting your API. In the same way that you are introducing API layer, also this consideration can also take place, so that you are able to prove and to justify and to ask for more funding in order to increase, enlarge your API program. Here, for example, are some example of KPI that can be considered. For example, starting from the left to the right, that are more, let's say, IT versus more business founding. For example, is the speed to deliver an API. How does it take from the design specs to the deployment? How does it take, for example, to use that API? The quality of the API. What is the latency? What is the error, security compliance, generation error, and so on. And then maybe what is the reusable rate of that API? How I can measure the reuse rather than build from scratch every time. The adoption of the API, the adoption internally and externally, the simplification of the partner onboarding. How many partners are onboarding and using my API? All these are type of, let's say, KPI that are being categorized in these three pillars: the execution KPI, adoption API, and lastly, the value KPI. What is the business value generated? Are direct or indirect monetization? Is direct or indirect? What is the impact that this API had to your current business? If it's indirect or direct monetization, what is the impact? What is the, in terms of dollars that the API were able to convey, generate with this in this context? The cost saving, for example, in terms of effort to simplify not only the development speed, but also the usability, also the how can you distribute it, because it's a digital product, how you can distribute to your consumer, to your customer, this project, the cost saving that I had in terms of FT effort, hours. So these are something that you can start to think about even before that you deploy something, just to prove how and to check while you are maturing in this API program, how you are going into this direction. So, for example, here we have customer, I think it was taken from a customer recent customer that basically some KPI in terms of execution KPI, it were able to increase, let's say, the 30% increase in planned changes, or they moved from a 7-month release cycle into daily release cycle. The resolution of the issue, if the troubleshooting and the resolution of the issue was increased 67% than without the API. The adoption, it's something that's very easy to calculate. How many partners did onboard? How many partners registered to use the API? How many developers, both internal or external? How many API? And these are all numbers that can be gathered by once you introduce Apigee. And you can find out the partner registered on the developer portal, the application registered, and the internal developer. And then, of course, with Apigee, you can also collect analytics that are able to derive also this type of information. So you are able, with this type of information, to provide, let's say, metrics, CPI, that can justify the adoption and the, let's say, the increase, the expansion of Apigee inside your organization. I hope that was useful, all the 4 sessions that you had so far.